Hello, Gary Simon of DesignCourse.com, and today is January 5th with our 5th video of 2014. We're sticking with the 365 videos and 365 days thing, and today you're going to learn a little bit of 3D. So we're going to download an application called Blender, and it is 100% free. It's only about 50 or 60 megabytes. I forget which it is. It's very small, and the installation process is very easy as well. So I'll tell you where to go get that in just a few minutes. But first, what we're going to use this for is to showcase logos in a 3D environment on a glass surface. So in about a minute or so, I'll show you the end result, and it looks really awesome. So I'm really excited about this, and definitely do it. Don't let the fact that it's a new piece of software discourage you. Stick with this video, and by the end you're going to be really impressed and maybe even really inspired to learn something new, such as 3D. Alright, so before we begin, as always, visit DesignCourse.com, put in your email, check out what's there, and also the source files and the project files and everything are available for free in the link in the description below this video. So let's go ahead and get started. This is what the end result will look like. Okay, so if you don't have Blender installed, go to blender.org/download, and you'll see this page here. And depending on which operating system you have, go ahead and download the installer version, depending on whether or not you have a 64 or 32-bit operating system. And go ahead, once after download, install it. The installation is very quick. And once you have it installed, load it up, and you'll be presented with this view right here. So the first thing right off the bat I want to do is just save this project. So we're going to go to File, Save. And I'm going to call this just showcase3d.blend. All right, so right off the bat, there's a few things that you need to know if you're 100% new to Blender. The way you select an object is by right-clicking it, not left-clicking, just right-clicking. So by default, it puts in this light source right here and a camera in this cube. To rotate the view, you hold your middle mouse button, and to zoom in or zoom out, you use your scroll wheel. And then if you want to pan, you hold Shift and that middle mouse button, like that. So I'll be using that, and really it's just a matter of muscle memory. So if it seems like I'm moving fast, you can just pause it. And the only way to really get good with this stuff is to just by practicing it quite a bit. So anyhow, now what we want to do is just delete this cube. So we can hit Delete key or X. I'm just going to hit Delete and Enter. And we want to add a plane. So if we go to Add Mesh Plane, it will add that, and we can also access that same menu by hitting Shift and A, which I will do from now on. So you see it adds this plane right here. What we want to do is rotate this by 90 degrees on the X-axis. So to do that, we hit R, and we hit X, and then we hit 90 and hit Enter. All right, so I'm just going to move it up along the Z-axis real quick, and then I want to duplicate this. So this object right here, this plane, is actually going to be where the logo is showcased. It's going to be a glass panel basically. So I want to have a kind of like a wall behind it. So to do that, we're going to hit Shift D to duplicate, and if we just move this around, don't click, you'll see that it doesn't stay on the axis. So if we want it to stay on this Y axis, we hit Y, and there we go. So we're just going to have it maybe, pretty close, maybe right around there. And then we're going to scale it up. So we can hit S, and we can just drag this up however high we want, or you can put an actual number value to duplicate it or replicate it that many times, or multiply rather. So I'm just going to go right around here. It doesn't really matter if you're perfect there. And now we have our two planes, and we can see our first one here and then the big wall behind it. All right, so now what I want to do is give both of these a texture. So if I take this column over here and drag it out, we see all these different tabs. The one we want is this one. And with the wall selected, we'll go ahead and first make sure Cycles Render is selected from this menu up here. We'll hit New, and we'll just leave this at a white color and diffuse. And then we will go ahead and right click to select our glass and do the same thing. So now I want to set up our camera view. So to get to the camera view, right now you see we're in user perspective mode. To get to camera view, we'll hit the 0 key on the number pad. And basically everything within this box will be rendered. So what we want to do is go to View Properties, and then over here, click on Lock Camera to View, and you'll see it becomes a red outline. And then go to View Properties to get rid of that window. And basically this allows us to move the camera view exactly how we want to. So basically we want to be right around here when we render. So this is the glass panel basically that will be rendered when we do this. So if we want to render, we can go over here just to see what everything currently looks like. And I want to make a few adjustments. First, I'm going to change my device to GPU compute. That makes everything go a lot faster because it uses both of my graphics cards to render instead of the processor. And I'm going to go down here to sampling. I'm going to change render from 10 to 100. Basically, the higher this number is, the better the quality. However, it will take a little bit longer. So now what I'm going to do is just hit render, and this is it. It's not all that impressive at all. You can see our, well, it's not glass yet, but this is what it will look like. So you can hit the escape key to get rid of that. And I'm going to switch out of the camera perspective by simply hitting the 0 key once again. And that gives us basically to our last point. So if we hit camera view again, it goes back to wherever we left it. All right, so now what we want to do, this part's going to be just a little bit difficult, but I'm going to back up real quick. First, we want to go to world and just change the basically it's this color to white. So the change that makes, if we go back to the camera view, hitting 0 and hit render, everything is a lot brighter now. Okay, so back to that confusing part. If you've never used Blender and this is your first time, you're probably going to get discouraged, but don't worry. I mean, this is just for the purpose of this video and this tutorial. And this is something, once you do it once, you'll be able to reuse this project file for showcasing future logos or whatever you want in the future. So what we want to do is get this glass panel actually looking glass and actually displaying a logo. So doing it requires tampering with what's called the node editor. So let's go ahead real quick and do that. I'm going to hit tab, or not tab rather, I'm going to hit 0 to get out of here. And I'm going to take this little icon. You can see when we hover over that, and left click and drag to the right. Now that gives us basically two different views, and it basically duplicates whatever view you pulled it from. So they're both right now exactly the same. If we come over here, this will allow us to change what is displayed over here. So what we want over there is the node editor. So if we use our mouse wheel, we can kind of zoom up here. And I'm going to push this over here a little bit more so we can get a better look at what's going on. This right here, we can kind of see we can move this around. These can actually get very large, and they allow us to basically control the appearance of whichever object we happen to be selected. So if we wanted to select this background wall, we can see it has its own, and then this one as well. So when I first saw this, when I started learning Blender, which really was only about a month or two ago, I was like, what is this? Because it looks so foreign. So don't let that deter you. Basically, we have to set this up and go through a number of steps in order to get this to work correctly. So if we hold Control on the keyboard and we left click and drag, that will just basically separate this connection. We want to add a shader. So we go down here and we go to add shader, and we want to add a mix shader. And we're going to put that right around here. So basically a mix shader will allow you to add two different types of shaders. And we want to connect this shader right here to the surface right there. All right, so next what we want to do is take the diffuse, we're going to put it down here, and we're going to take this point and connect it to the bottom shader right there. Now we want to add a glass shader. So we go over to add shader and then select glass. And we'll put it right here. So we'll connect this portion to the bottom right there. So now we have our two different shaders worked in here. So let's just scroll over here a little bit. And now we need to add our image texture. So this would be our logo that we want to add. So we go to add texture, image texture. We'll put it right here. And we want to take the color and drag it down here to diffuse. And then we want to hit open to open up our danalogo.png, which will be linked in the project files, which you can access in the description beneath this video. And once you have that open, now we want to take alpha and we want to connect it all the way to this FAC pointer on the mix shader. Now there's only one more that we need to add, and that is add input and texture coordinate. Now I know this all sounds insane. You have no idea what's going on, but that's okay. We'll go to UV and connect it down here to vector. All right, so that is all we have to do for this setup right here. So it looks like alien. Like I said, you don't have to worry about it right now. If you ever want to reuse this this project to showcase logos or whatever, just save this, and you're not going to have to worry about this stuff. And of course, there's tons of tutorials on YouTube, and if you do a Google search on how to really figure out how all this stuff works. But just for our purpose, this would be good enough. So you don't have to have a great understanding of it. Now what we want to do, I'm going to combine these windows here. So I'm going to take this and just drag it over here to the right, and you'll see that arrow that kind of overlaps and go right there. So you would think, okay, maybe now if we go to render, we'll be able to see our glass texture or whatever. That's not the case though, but just real quickly, I will hit 0 to get into camera view. We'll hit render and nothing shows up. It is glass texture, but the actual decal isn't set up, and I'll tell you how to fix that. So if we hit escape and we go to, I'm going to hit 0 just to get out of there, and making sure this is currently selected by right clicking it, we'll go to edit mode, and you can get there also by hitting tab. And if you hit A and A again, just make sure everything is currently selected, and it will be if it's all orange. And what we have to do is scroll down here, and we have to go to unwrap and then select unwrap. All right, so now if we get out of edit mode, we'll hit tab just to go back into object mode. And we hit 0 on the number pad, and we hit render. Now we'll see this image right here. So it doesn't look quite right though, because it's kind of up against, the edges of this. So we're going to go ahead and fix that. So what we'll do is hit escape to get out of there, and we're going to get up Photoshop. So go ahead and load up Photoshop, and we're going to go to File, New. And we have to make sure the width and height are 1024 by 1024. We'll hit OK. And it's obviously a pretty large image. I'm only at 50% view. And if you do have a white background, you can just delete that, or just go to File, New, and where it says Background Contents, usually by default it's set at white, or your background color, change that to transparent. All right, so you have a transparent background. And then we want to open up that logo, which is Dana logo. Hit Control A, then Control C, and then Control V to paste it in here, and hit Control T, and hold Shift and Alt, and we could scale it down right around here. So basically anything that's going to be inside of this container here, this image, will be displayed on that glass piece. So let's go ahead and save for web. So save for web, we see the shortcut here. And I'm going to make it PNG 24 transparent and save this. Dana logo, we'll just call this 2. And I'm going to wait, my hard drive's being a little bit slow. All right, and now what I'm going to do is go back to Blender, and now what I'm going to do, we're going to go back to that UV, or the node editor rather, and I'm just going to zoom up here real quick, and we can just click this icon under the image texture node, and Dana logo -2, that's what we want. All right, so let's get that back over here. And now let's hit render. And now it's set on there much better. Okay, so while this result is pretty cool, we can do some things to improve it. So I'm going to hit escape. And now I'm going to go to hit 0. And I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. I'm going to add a emission plane. So I'm just going to click the left mouse button right around here, kind of by the camera. And I'm going to go to Add Mesh Plane. And I want to rotate it so it's kind of facing our glass portion. So I'm going to hit R, and we're going to do, see if X is it. Yep, X, and then 45, and hit Enter. All right, so over here we're going to give it a texture or a material, and hit New, and we're going to choose Emission, which is right there. So emission, we have a color option, and I'm going to leave it at white, and strength, which is 1, which is kind of not very strong, so I'm going to choose 10. All right, so if we hit 0 on the number key, go back, and we hit render, you see it slightly lightens things up, but also, let me escape out of there, hit 0. If we want to drop this down a little bit on the z-axis, we'll see what happens then. We'll render it again. Usually I have a reflection on here, but I think I have to adjust things a little bit more. Let me escape. Okay, and I just paused the video so I could play around with getting that into the correct position so we can see a reflection of that light source of the plane emission. And I was able to get it to show kind of right up here. So if I hit 0 on the number pad, this is kind of where I moved it. You may have to play around just to get that same effect. And we can even add multiple planes up here. So if we hit Shift-D, and we move this on the X-axis by hitting X, we can put one right there. We can go back to the camera view and hit render, and we'll see we have the second one showing there. That just way just kind of gives us a little bit more, I guess, realism, if you could say. You could choose to leave that out if you want, although you have to realize that when you do duplicate that, you increase the light strength. So that's something to keep in mind. So let me escape out of here, and I'm going to just zoom up once by using my mouse wheel. I think it looks better if I zoom it up here just a little bit more. All right. And I just wanted to show a couple other things that we could do, and you could really play around with and make this look cool. So if I hit escape, and we get back to user perspective, we can do a couple things. So let's select the actual glass, and if we go into edit mode, we hit tab, or we choose it manually there, you'll see that basically if we zoom up here, This is just a very simple, it has no depth to it. So we can actually create some depth by hitting the E key, which means extrude. So now we're giving it some depth. So depending on how big you want to make it, if you make it real thick, it may not work out as you want, but if we make it pretty thin and hit basically the left mouse button to solidify that selection, if we go back to tab and we hit 0 and we hit render, you can see what sort of happens here. It basically, by giving it depth, it creates kind of like a shadow on the back portion of that glass piece. Now, if that's something that you don't want, you can kind of leave that step out. I just wanted to show another thing real quick. Go back to 0. Let's say, for example, we wanted to add something that made it look like this is actually connected to the wall, like maybe like 4 little cylinders. So we can do that real quickly. I'm gonna click right around here by left clicking, and like right here. Okay, so basically wherever this little cursor is, that's where a new object will be added. So if we hit Shift A and add a cylinder, as you can see, it's real big. So if I hit S and scale this down quite a bit, and we want to rotate it so it's facing this way. So X and 90, and then hit enter. So now, right now it's it's a lot fatter than I would want it to be. So let's go ahead and hit S and scale that down quite a bit more. And then if we hit S again and we'll choose Y, we can scale this up just to right around here. All right. So real quickly, if you use your number pad and you hit 1, that gives us a front perspective. And I also like to hit 5 on the number pad, and that changes us to front ortho. If you hit 7, we're still in ortho mode, and basically that means whenever you're trying to model, you're trying to work with modeling something, it allows you to select the vertices in an orthographic mode opposed to a perspective mode. And if that's confusing, you don't really have to worry about that right now. But anyhow, at the top view is 7, and then 3 is right. So by switching between these modes, we can use these anchors to really position it a little bit better. And also, if we wanted to switch this to a wireframe so we can see things, so if we go to like 1, for example, we want to be able to see this because in the solid mode, because this light source right here is in the way. So that's just something to keep in mind. So if we go to wireframe, we want to move this around so it's kind of more even. We can do so. And now what we want to do is give this an actual texture. So if we go over here, we hit new, and we can go ahead and we can just give this let's try giving it a glossy. And we'll try like right around here, like a gray. All right, now we can go ahead and duplicate this, Shift D, and we will keep that on the Z axis by hitting Z. And then Shift D again and hit X. Go right around here. And I'm just panning, remember, by Shift and your middle mouse button. And then Shift D once more and hit Z and click right around there. Okay. All right, so now if we switch back to solid here, let's go ahead and hit the 0 key and let's go to render. You can now see it has these little, I'm not sure if you would actually want to use that, but really I'm just trying to show you guys some just cool things. So with a very little amount that you learned here, you actually learned a ton, because you can do so many different cool things with what you learned. So for example, just to show you another thing, if we hit escape, and hit 0 to get out of here. If we wanted to change the color of these two things, hold Shift and right click both of those and go over here to the material. We could change our color. Let's try like a blue right around here, like a light blue. And we'll go back to 0 for our camera view, and we'll render this and see what happens. You can see now everything kind of has more of a bluish tint. Whether or not you like that, that's up to you. But as you can see, you can just play around with stuff so much, and it makes it look really cool. So just one final thing. I'm going to get out of here. I really don't like those cylinders, so I'm going to select them all real quick and just delete them. Delete. And then I'm going to change both of these back here to white. And then for the final render, you know, when you're really ready to render a good looking image, you want to make sure you come back down to, where's that at? Sampling. And for render, for something to get something really good, I mean 1,000 would be ideal. So I'm going to hit 1,000. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to hit the 0 key to get back into the camera view. And then I'm going to go ahead and render this. Now, because I selected 1,000, it's going to take quite a bit longer for this to get going. So I'm just going to pause until it's fully completed. And then I'll unpause it. And this is what it came up with, though I should probably tell you that I adjusted a couple things while I was pausing it, because first let me hit escape here. What I realized is when I changed these two colors over here, I only changed this value. This was still over here as blue, so make sure if you want to go to hex, just change that to 6Fs, and that's the hex color code for white. And I also removed the thickness that was on the glass because it just gave this shadow. I didn't really like it. So yeah, no big deal there. So another thing real quickly I wanted to show. So that looked real good, of course, with that logo. Just to show you what it looks like with a different logo, if you bring up Photoshop again, go to File, Open here. We'll try the DC logo that's in the project files. Control A, Control C to copy that, and then we'll go ahead and Control A and delete everything there by hitting the delete key, and then Control V, Control T, hold Shift and Alt, and scale that down. We'll save this by saving for web. I'll just do this shortcut here. Hit save, and we'll call this DC logo -2, and we go back here to Blender and we get out of there. The way we change that again is if we select our, here, it's hard to see, they're like the same color. If we select this again, bring out our other window, go back to node editor, we zoom up here with our scroll wheel, hit open, DC logo -2, to get this back over here, hit 0, go back to render, although I want to, yeah, I'll let it render for the high 1,000 samples, and then I'll pause this and unpause it once it's done. And here it is after it got done rendering, and really that took about 1.5 minutes or 2. And once again, it looks pretty freaking awesome. So once you have a render that you like and you want to save it, you just hit F3. So we'll just call this Final DC Render. And it gives you the options to change, you know, right now it's at PNG. If we change this to like a JPEG, put the quality up to 100% or whatever you want, and then just hit save as image, and then you're done. You got your image. So I hope this was a good video tutorial, an introduction kind of to Blender. Although there are probably better, more generalized introductions, like, you know, understanding the interface and all that stuff than this video. But you know, in the context of using it to showcase like a logo or a decal or anything, hopefully this is a good tutorial. So if you like this, do me a big favor. If you haven't already, please go to designcourse.com. Check out what is there. Right now, the official course relaunch is not ready, but if you're watching this down the road and it is, please check it out. Also check out in the description the different social networks that I'm a part of. Please like them on Facebook, Twitter, Google, and of course here on YouTube. Please subscribe. All right, so if you have any questions, go ahead and just post in the comments and I will try to comment. All right, thanks, and until next time, I will see you then. Goodbye.